I like to see the development that occurred in St. Michael. We got the Jarrett Hospital there, so on the highway, which is a real good thing for the elderly people to have a nice place to be and to stay. You have Botanical Garden, which is a good social hub for a lot of people. It hosts a lot of shows. You have people going on picnics. You know, it's good for the family development and stuff like that. The Oceanic School on Bay Street, that's a very good initiative. Marine development and the ocean and stuff like that. The Carifesta Village is another good initiative. You know, it helps with the creativity, not only of Barbados, but of the region. You have a lot of things being hosted there, like Food and Rum. The Food and Rum Festival was held there, and that was a very, very good thing. I overall like the development that we have had throughout the years in St. Michael, and I know that we will do much better in the future.
Well, the development in St. Michael is fantastic. Like we got botanical gardens, for example, right? Golden Square. There's so much different things. I like the fact like the whole like community where people from other parishes can also come to St. Michael, right? And Pelican Village basically representing St. Michael to the fullest, like small businesses, entertainment, socializing, you name it.
Yeah, I was saying that the Prime Minister Mayor Marty, she's doing a great job for the for at least for the whole country. St. Michael in the whole right now is really a good point. Really that we could at least say that, like the constituency and everything is going in the right direction. The hospital is supposed to be moving the hospital soon from then going to a bigger one too. That's the same, right? Yeah. Which I think that's another good move at least, which means be able to hold much more people and I mean accommodate a lot of the old people and stuff too. I appreciate everything that is happening right now in St. Michael, not only in St. Michael but in the whole of Barbados, and it's all true. I can't say no one else different go to the party that really is in power right now. For there's the leading party, and there's the people that really is doing everything really to just to raise the market share. Yeah. Yes. Those are the leading people, and those are the people that really is doing that much for the country. Well, oh yeah, the hotel that's supposed to be built in town, that's another good move because that in the whole can help generate a whole lot of work for a lot of people. That's the same, and help boost the tourism, which is another good site. Yep. So like there's so much that is going on in this country right now that we should only be glad and at least applaud whoever that is making it possible. You know what I mean? So like, it's good things are happening. Truthfully, so. But
Good night, everyone. Welcome to Ideas Forum, the St. Michael edition. My name is Roy Morris. I'm Director of Citizen Engagement and Media Relations in the Prime Minister's Office. And this is your opportunity as residents of the parish of St. Michael to share your ideas with your MPs and with the Prime Minister, who should be here shortly. By way of housekeeping, if you are planning to speak tonight, if you have a presentation you want to make, you need first to go to the table at the back of the room on my left and give your information, certain basic information, to Shakira. She will take that information from you and she will give you a number. That number will determine the order in which you come to the mic, which is over here. You're not going to get to the mic unless you first go to the desk. Also, for housekeeping purposes, there are bathrooms to the right of the main building, on the right of the tower behind you, the old fire service tower. So if you need to, that's where you'll find the bathrooms. Pardon? Yes. So, I'll give the MPs for St. Michael who are here a chance to introduce themselves to you and to share any ideas they have with you, and then we will go from there. So let's begin with the Deputy Prime Minister, who is to my left.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to St. Michael and certainly to all of my colleagues across the St. Michael constituencies. I think this is the very last of the Ideas Forum, and we are also in the month where we get to celebrate the parish of St. Michael. So I'm looking forward tonight certainly to a number of ideas coming and germinating here from the people of St. Michael to be able to improve the constituencies. Now, you know, St. Michael, I was told from the time I came into politics that St. Michael constituencies are very interconnected, because you may be divided by a road. There are 11 constituencies. You may be divided by a road, but across the road will be the representative for St. Michael East, and on the other side of the road will be myself. But the relationships in terms of the families across those borders make the community one large community. And therefore, a lot of the things that we experience in one community impacts on other communities as well. So I think tonight, in terms of the ideas that certainly may germinate from this type of forum, will be common areas, for instance, like housing. How do we improve housing? How do we make better use of the spaces that are available to us? We have a lot of densely populated communities in the parish of St. Michael. I know that our Minister of Housing and certainly the government has been working to make sure that we are able to increase and improve the amount of houses and housing conditions for the residents across Barbados, but in particular in St. Michael because of its dense nature. We have been trying to ensure as well that in terms of the recreational facilities, that while we are mindful that sometimes people want to remain in the spaces that they are, that we have to make sure that we have the appropriate areas that people can recreate. And I know the Minister of Sports can speak to that, and community development in terms of building with that in mind as well. As you see, even in this space in Golden Square, while it bears a particular history, which is well known to all of you, equally we have created a space which I don't think anybody, if the forefathers were to come back today, they certainly would not recognize the space that is here. And these are the ideas. I know Prime Minister Motley was very passionate about this space when she was Minister of Culture and certainly Minister of Education. But these are the types of ideas that I see coming out of these types of forums, where we create spaces that are in these densely populated communities, but at the same time we create spaces where people can recreate, where Bajans can come and lime. I've seen this space transform in so many different ways. But what I certainly would like to see as an MP from St. Michael is that we not just create spaces like this in the city, but that in every community there's an opportunity like this for spaces of this type that would allow the type of talent that has come from the parish of St. Michael, because we have a number of the artists over the years have come from the parish. And I would love to certainly see that we are able to replicate these types of facilities in the densely populated communities across all of the St. Michael areas. I think too that we have been doing a number of activities to recognize our people. Certainly in St. Michael's office, we've been looking at recognizing a lot of the fallen heroes of the community. We have a number of activities planned for that. And I think that we need to do that in more of the communities, where we not only do a lot for the young people, but we also remind them of the spaces that they're in, highlighting the contributions that have been made by the people who have gone before. Because as I said before, St. Michael is intertwined. You can't go into one constituency and not find somebody that is connected in some way. Somebody got the girlfriend in one area, they got the wife living in some other place, the children from different men and women in different spaces. That is the St. Michael that I know. And the only thing that separates us sometimes, as I said, is the road. And therefore, we have to find ways in this very limited spaces that we have to be able to ensure that the history of St. Michael is also preserved, that our young people understand not just where they are going, but where they have come from. And as I said, I think this space is a prime example of being able to create something which has given us the history, and something to celebrate, but it is also a space that demonstrates what is possible as a country, because nobody could have envisaged that in the heart of Bridgetown, that this type of space on a site that had been so neglected for so many years could be created. I would also like to say, I don't know how much time you're giving me, Mr. Chair, but I would also like to see us addressing the issue of homelessness. I often remark that when I sit oftentimes on the wall just at the top of the Parliament, just outside the Senate chamber, and I see the number of homeless people who are within that space across Independence Square. And I think that while we are able to do so much in terms of being able to allocate funds, that we need to address these issues frontally. Many people are suffering with mental health issues, and I think this really has to be a whole of government approach, whole of society approach to be able to deal with these issues. People who become homeless, oftentimes there is a history, a journey that they have traveled to reach that point. I think that instead of us sometimes frowning on people, we need to appreciate that there is a journey that they have walked to get to that point. And in all of our communities, perhaps we see the issue of homelessness more in the St. Michael constituencies than I believe anywhere else. And if I am wrong, y'all can tell me, but I see it more all across St. Michael, and in particular in the city. So I think we need to make sure that we are able to have programs that can address these things from an early stage to be able to do the interventions that are necessary, and to ensure that people can reintegrate easily if they have fallen on hard times and for various reasons may need the necessary interventions in order to be able to get back on their feet. So I'm going to stop there because there are 11 of us, and I feel like I might take up too much time talking, so I'm going to hand over to the next person who is here, the representative, Mr. Chris Gibbs, who will take the podium now.
Thank you, DPM. And good night, everyone. First of all, I would like to echo the sentiments made by the Deputy Prime Minister that there are 11 St. Michael constituencies divided by boundaries. These boundaries essentially are invisible lines. It's one community. And as colleagues, we talk a lot about the issues that afflict our constituents, and most often they mirror one another. And as this is Ideas Forum, I can tell you that a lot of the programs that I have implemented in St. Michael West has been ideas that my constituents have brought to me, because we don't have all the ideas. And certainly a lot of the programs that I have implemented have been inspired by my constituents. In terms of what vision I have for St. Michael, I had a unique opportunity to actually play a role in creating this green space as I was chairman of the Barbados Tourism Investment, Inc. And this green space was spearheaded by the Honorable Prime Minister. And to me, whatever endeavor that I certainly go into as Minister of Housing, I think that we have to incorporate green spaces, which obviously will amplify what deficiencies we see in our society. One is we need to get people moving. We need more green spaces for exercise. We need places that children can play and where children can be children. I think that a lot of times in our communities, I certainly see in St. Michael West that our children are under a lot of pressure. They are in situations where there's frustrations in the household. And I think that we need to have, if we're gonna have communities that are built developments that are built, we need to have more mixed use. So we need green spaces. The Prime Minister is very passionate and going forward when we are building new houses that we have to have large bedrooms. We have to have open spaces because she's seeing that a lot of people in our communities are certainly frustrated, and these frustrations can lead to crime and whatnot. So as the new Minister of Housing, I can say that any new developments that we go into, we will make sure that the housing is certainly dignified, spacious, that our people can certainly stretch their legs and exhale. So the thing about it is that in St. Michael, certainly it has changed a lot over the years. My family has been here in St. Michael for over 100 years. And Fontebelle used to be a suburb. Now it's mostly commercial. So we have to be reflective about that, of the changing needs of our society. And the youth feel left out a lot in getting a piece of the rock and the dream. So as Minister of Housing, I need to concentrate also on making housing more affordable. So we want housing to be more affordable. We need dignified housing, as I said before. But we also have to build resiliency into our houses. We saw what happened yesterday with the floods. It's crazy to think that that intensity of rain could have caused floodwaters like that affected a lot of our Barbadians in St. Lucie, St. Peter, and St. George. We also saw what happened with Jamaica with Hurricane Melissa. So we really need to build resilience across the board throughout government. And with programs like Roofs to Reefs, which is a program which is geared towards building resilience, certainly in the housing stock. We're going to look at coastal zone management so that we can make Barbados a lot more resilient, hopefully, for these storms. Obviously, as the Deputy Prime Minister would tell you, that maintenance is very important in drainage, because after the storm has passed, most certainly a lot of the misery that we're seeing in Jamaica is that you have a lot of settled water that also leads to disease and these sorts of things. So we need to concentrate on our drainage and maintenance across the board. Also in housing, it is the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Maintenance, but I almost feel as though maintenance should be first. So yes, I'm going to be forward thinking, looking towards obviously building houses that are in an innovative way, in a more industrial approach, but at the same time I have to look back and look at the existing housing stock and make sure that they are properly maintained. So that's just a little bit. I won't hog the mic too much. Thank you. Oh, Speaker of the House, Arthur Holder.
Good evening to all. My position is very, very slightly different, and not controversial at all. The concept is Ideas Forum. Oftentimes, we as politicians, we talk and we implement and we do things. Tonight is your night. That is why it's Ideas Forum. Come to us, tell us what you, the people who we represent, the ideas that you have, what you want us to do. I am here as a listener. That is all I'm doing tonight, listening to you, to what you're saying to us. We did this, but we want this. That is what I'm here doing. I'm a listener. Listen to all of you from St. Michael who advocate and tell us what you want us to do as your MPs. Thank you.
Good night. I think on that note, there's probably really nothing else. I really want to hear from the persons who are here. And I'm looking forward to engaging in meaningful conversation on a wide array of areas, because St. Michael people are capable of speaking on all things. So thank you. I don't think they want to. I think we want to start.
Yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, MPs for St. Michael. Your host for tonight would be Mr. Alex Downs, the Prime Minister's Press Secretary, and Tahir Bulbulia, a young, dynamic constituent from St. Michael. And you are more familiar with him from the call-in programs of not so long ago. So I'll turn over to the two of them. Again, remember, if you are making a presentation, please go over to the desk at the back on my left and give your information basic information they will ask for you and give you a number. That number orders the way in which we speak. So that being said, I turn you over now to Alex and Tahir and guide you through the rest of the evening.
Okay, thanks so much, Roy, and good night to everyone. Good night to the residents of St. Michael. Before I begin, I'm just going to ask those standing at the back if you can join us. There's plenty of seating, so we just want to make as full of a house as possible. So I ask if you could just come forward, those standing at the back. Thanks. There are plenty of seats, so feel free to have a seat and to join us in the conversation. As the others have said tonight, this is St. Michael's Idea Forum. This is the opportunity for you to share your ideas, your suggestions, and let's have a conversation about how we can make this a better parish. If you do have an idea you'd like to share, there's a desk at the back. Please feel free to sit down, put your idea down, you'll get a number, and that's the order in which we will go. So I am Alex Dongs, Prime Minister's Press Secretary. To my right, your left will be Tahir Bubuya, my co-host. We've been together for all the Ideas Forum so far, and they've been extremely successful. I have every reason to believe this will be the best of the bunch. So without further ado, Tahir, I'll go to the first speaker. We have Carla Nichols. Carla, the microphone and the floor is yours.
Hi, good night. First I want to confess I do not live in St. Michael, but I work here, and so I spend maybe most of my hours, and my ideas are focused on bettering the communities in St. Michael, and it can be extrapolated to the other parishes as well. So as the Deputy Prime Minister would have mentioned, as well as the Honorable Mr. Gibbs would have mentioned, here is where the capital is densely populated, and I'm glad that you guys mentioned the green spaces and wanting to improve the existing housing. So my solution deals with that. While we are a rhetorical leader in climate, certainly, we are working on also improving our data collection and sharing. And one way I think we can really effectively help our communities is measuring the heat island effect so that we can see the effect that heat is already having on the health of our communities. And also other places have even seen a link between community safety, where an argument might become violent when it's hotter. And so not only can we work on the NCD issue, which robs community leaders of more time with the community, which costs more to treat in public health, but we can find out what is the best way to improve the existing communities. And these solutions could look like lightening the surfaces, yes, planting trees and having more green space and allowing areas where people can play and more walkable communities. And there are existing initiatives such as the Roofs to Reefs initiative, as you mentioned, where you can lighten the roofs. And then you can measure just how it's affecting the community already. You can plot it against maybe NCDs, see how hot the nights are. That's often when are most vulnerable, which are the people who cannot afford air conditioning and cannot and live in these more dense areas, and the elderly. They often succumb to heat-related illnesses at night, and it might just seem like heart attacks or so, but we need to make sure that people who work outside, especially as we're having this construction boom, that they are not being adversely affected and their working years shortened by heat that we're not used to experiencing. So we have to make sure that our Health and Safety Act, etc., look out for these dangerous heat days, just as we look out for the dangerous rain days, to make sure that we are making sure employers are giving them adequate water breaks. It might help us inform how we shade our sidewalks. And these initiatives are not necessarily high cost, but they might be high reward, but we only know that if we start measuring. And when we become data leaders, then we can have more credibility overseas when we submit our nationally determined contributions on time. We've done a lot in the climate space already, and while we're doing amazing things in the finance region, we can also cash in on our revenues from carbon credits, from the projects we've already spent so much money on, and we can really find out what's the best way when we do receive funding from all our great advocacy work, what's the best way to see the most long-term reward. So my solution is really to collect data, quantify what we care about, and make it work for us.
Thank you, Carla. Before you go, Once again, as I do with everyone who takes the opportunity to come to the mic, I want to commend you for sharing your idea.
Okay.
What I would ask you, you said that you work in St. Michael.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere specifically that you believe that something like this pilot, capturing data or measuring the heat index, is there anywhere in St. Michael you see that perhaps that should be done first in your experience?
Well, actually, I am a civil servant, and in my capacity, I've done my best to provide data when asked for our participation in the framework on carbon mitigation approaches. So that allows us to benefit from those revenue streams if there's a price on pollution, so that we get money for reducing our carbon, but also making sure that when a price is put on carbon, we're not negatively affected as a trade-dependent jurisdiction, and and the imports and stuff like that. So I try to make sure that I get out data in my capacity, but I just wanted to encourage that to be more wide. Yeah.
Is there a specific, say I assume you work in the city.
Yes.
So is there a specific area that you experience, like you're talking about heat? Is there anywhere specifically that is you find hot or that studies should be done in that area first? Anywhere you could think in the parish?
Anywhere that's densely populated and does not have a lot of trees will be the hot areas. So, yeah.
That's exactly.
I work in an air-conditioned building, but that's maybe not my, yeah.
Fair.
Carlo, just one thing before you go, I want to echo Alex's statement, commending you for coming up and sharing.
Yeah.
And who do you think will be responsible for collecting the data? Or who could be?
I think you do not overcomplicate it. It could be putting thermometers in key areas, looking at satellite data. I obviously have training specifically in like planning and infrastructure. So it would be to see where is most densely populated. You could look at the last census or the population work you guys have been doing, looking at where it does not have much tree cover. All of these, when you do this kind of mapping, it helps you inform where to deploy certain solutions. So it's just about collecting data and then mapping it to trends that you're seeing.
Carla, could I ask you a question? Obviously, I see that you are passionate and you are an integral part of this. How can we as a government get this information that you just shared? How can we share it with the population, the normal man in the street, the people in the constituency, so that they're made aware of what the information that you have? How can we as a government share that openly with the people so they understand exactly what we are speaking about?
Well, often, sometimes there's a lot of good things happening, but we might not know. So I think it's just, it could be a page in the newspaper with the good things that are happening. It could be, there's information sharing on television, on the radio, and having people feel, everybody's affected by climate change. So you don't want people to think, because I didn't study the climate, I don't have anything to offer, because we're all affected. So I think just having a more porous way of getting feedback and asking everybody, and not assuming that anybody might not have something to offer, because we're all equally affected. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Carlo, once again. I think as you've seen, you've opened the batting strong. Yeah. And you've actually hit on a point that the Deputy Prime Minister and a few others would have raised early. The conversation about heat and the urban heat islands like you're speaking about, that is offset as well by having green spaces, which is extremely important. So Golden Square, for example, Queen's Park, Botanical Gardens, these are places in St. Michael that offer that refuge from the concrete that you were talking about. So I think there's a balance there, and I think that your idea, well, some may not have thought about it before, it offers a lot of merit in terms of how we can then balance those two and provide some relief to people who, we all know when it gets hot outside, you just get miserable, and then if somebody come and confuse you, that will only add to the misery. So I do think there's a lot of merit in your ideas, and I want to thank you for coming up.
And I try to keep them implementable, because a coat of paint is negligible compared to maybe having a park on every street. But if you can start measuring the before, you can see the after, and it really does make a difference. Yeah.
Next up, we have Terry Bennett.
Good night, everyone. I'm glad to be here tonight. I never expected to actually ever come and stand in front of a crowd and speak on anything like this. So please excuse me, I do not have any experience. Right. First things first, right, I want to thank Mr. Kiss Gibbs and his secretaries, because over the past 5 years that I've been living in St. Michael, I didn't even know the Constitution of West. Sorry about that. Right. I've been interacting with these people, and I am 44 now. I've been interacting with politicians from the time I was in my early 20s, because I understood that these people are going to guide the country in different directions, be able to implement the things that we need to improve Barbados. So 2 years ago, I decided to take the AI course, Artificial Intelligence, and I was successful. When we came out, we were given a 1-year job attachment, basically, with a Canadian company who works in association with Barbados and NTI, Barbados, and the Student Revolving Loan Fund, in order to educate us about artificial intelligence. So along the way, I met a few people, and that's what brought me here today. Now, I was assigned to be the leader of the compliance department, which at first had me a little shaken because I didn't even know what compliance was. But when I started the AI course, I didn't even know what AI was. So I knew that as I go further, I would learn. So I learned the compliance by taking some courses on NTI Coursera, which was offered by the Student Revolving Loan Fund and Protexta. And I was able to learn how to generate applications, how to clean data, transform data. I learned a lot in that space of time. So when they assigned me to lead the compliance department, I just took time to understand what compliance is. That's when I realized that Barbados is we actually have laws for data protection as well. There are a lot of big countries out there that handle data every day, on a daily basis. There's a lot of data being leaked and stuff like that. So you need data protection laws in place to ensure that you don't lose stuff and that your identity is not stolen. Because it could be a Terry here and a Terry out there, but that Terry out there is spending money that I don't have. Right? And I get problems because they can't ask me what happened and they can't explain it. So let me get to my point. Along the way, I met people with impairments, in particular people that had visual impairments and hearing impairments. And I don't like to use the word disabilities now because these people are not disabled. These people impairments, they mean nothing. Because I decided to take a course in generating apps, so I had to learn how to do that first. So when I learned how to generate the apps, I had to teach the people. So it was an iterative process. I learned, they learned. So within my compliance team, there were people with impairments. As I said, there was this one particular guy, Sion Greenwich. Now, in generating an application, there are many parts. You want an application that functions, but you want it to also have aesthetic value. You want people to look at it and say, this application look good, I want to work with it. So obviously, someone with a visual impairment, I personally did not expect that he would actually have the understanding. I don't want some bad people, right? Because I don't have their experience. I only understood it based on my interaction with them. So they had a situation, he created an application. The application was functioning perfectly, but when I looked at it, I told him, well, Sion, it looks fine, right? It works fine, but it doesn't have the quite of an appearance that you need. He would say, yeah, I know that. He had me a little shot, like, you can't see, but you know. But he understood the concept. There's a style sheet that he would need to put into the actual files itself in order to give the application a style. You can look at it and it will look pleasing. So he took care of that. I brought it to me the next day, and I could have done it better myself. So when I saw that, I realized that we have people in Barbados with so much talent, so much intelligence, but they're standing behind walls that they themselves cannot get around, right? And there are simple things that we can do to improve their standard of life, that they could focus more on improving themselves and letting themselves be seen and do more for the country. So I had a conversation with Sion because he brought it to the forefront. I mean, like, I knew he had a visual impairment, but based on the metrics that I kept, performance, productivity, punctuality, this man was like A class. So like his impairment didn't matter. So I had a conversation with him and asked him, so how do you get around Barbados? Like, how you interact with people and stuff like that. He explained to me how he interacts and he gets help here and there. I said, so do you have any ideas in your brain, right, which we could use to improve Barbados, that person that you could be a little more independent? The man already had an entire document set up, right? I mean, like, I do not have it. No, I had to go and generate it because the contract came to an end. I no longer work with the AI people. The brain is still here, right? The people that I met, they're still inside of here and still inside of here. Because like before that, I never had an interaction with a person with an impairment. I didn't understand the life that they were living and how difficult it would be to operate, navigate, you know? And that you gotta lean on somebody all the time when you want something, right? But there's a way that they can live a better life. And he already had it because it is his experience. So obviously he will be thinking about this every day. What could happen to Barbados that I could like be more independent, you know? I'm a man, but I want to feel more like a man. I want to be able to call everybody and say, like, help me turn left, help me turn right. So I don't want to get into details and numbers, but that's what I did there on my laptop. I have numbers. I understand that Barbados is a country, right? We have expenditure, we have revenue. We cannot go and just spend money just to do things, right? It has to be beneficial to us. So I wanted to look into it and see like how it would be beneficial for us to improve the infrastructure in Barbados for those that have impairments. That will also be beneficial to us for our tourism sector, because that's basically what we're working with in Barbados right now. The sugar industry, and as big as it was when it was small, you see all the cane tractors that run and pull off the cane. Don't talk about that. I was young, born in the 80s, right? So there are things that we can do. There are places in the world which we can describe as e-states. They have implemented certain things around the entire of their nation. Barbados is a very small nation, yes, and it may incur costs, this is true, but we have private sector companies and people out there so that want to look good. So they can actually add by investing as well into these kind of ideas. Now, the gist of this thing is, right, we can have beacons installed in public buildings, supermarkets, even the corner shop, right? And how this is beneficial is that a person, right, can easily triangulate their location without asking for help from anyone. Get from point A to point B. They can actually get a job now, get there, get back. I don't have to ask any questions, you know? I mean, like, obviously we as Bajans, we have a lot of love in our heart. So if we see somebody out there that want help, we're gonna go and offer a hand, and we feel good about that. But sometimes the people is, you know, you don't feel good, you want your independence. So my proposal here, right, is a plan that's gonna take a few years. It's not saying it's gonna instantly happen, right? But it's gonna be beneficial for our people with impairments. We're gonna give them more independence. And also, is a little extra saying there. If we propose ourselves to the world as an accessible nation, we could tap into a market that people don't think about. People coming to Barbados, they want to have an experience, right? They could go to Harrison's Cave, but you can't see. But you can get audio description because there's a beacon there relaying the information as to what's going on here, where you are in Barbados, and how beautiful it is. You can have the smells and everything, but you can have a better experience like that. We have places like the Animal Flower Cave. We have so many places in Barbados where you can put these things, right? And it's not like a heavy investment. It's going to take millions out, and it's going to take money away from one sector and left people struggling. It's not like that. It's something that is easily done. And we have the talent here. Now, when I did my research, because I learned AI, I put everything through AI. But one thing that I teach people when I'm talking about AI is that you don't just go with your first response. It is an iterative process. If you get your response, you refine it again by reading it. That's why a lot of people fail. They use AI to answer questions, copy and paste. AI makes mistakes and it hallucinates. And I learned all these pretty words, right, during the course and during my time as the leader of the compliance department. So what I am saying now is that we have the talent here, people that have the talent, whether they have impairment or not. We have the talent here, so it's not that we have to go and import everything or pay companies to create programs. I can make a program, but don't even look at me. There are many people out there that are much better than me. I had some colleagues out there that can write code out their head. What kind of science is that? I can generate it. I understand the concept, I understand the process, I know how to put it together, I know how to make stuff work, but there are people out there with greater intellect, I should say, than I do. So sometimes I realize when I talk, I get real far into talking, right? But I want to focus. I want it to be better for people with impairments. Not only visual impairments, people with hearing impairments, but we have people out there with children with non-communicable diseases. That there are things that we can do and implement. Because I did simple research to find a solution, right? And I know that if we have so many businesses out there with so much brains on their heads on their shoulders, right? We can find more solutions and things like this here that bring me out of a hole. Because as I say, like, this is not something I would do. As you can hear from how I speak, right? I'm a raw Bajan. I did not come here to water down my words and sound like a real professional. No, I did not. I came here to speak the truth. We have intelligent people, right? We have infrastructure here that we can improve. And one thing, once we put down the foundation for this particular infrastructure, this could lead to more things because AI, technology is dynamic. You're going to keep getting more things to come. But if we have a foundation, we could build on that. But as I say, I want to focus right now on doing something for the people with visual impairments. Not saying that there are not other people that I want to help too, but I know for a fact I can't do everything at the same time, one at a time. Let me start. This idea is great. I can't give you the details and the numbers, but I based it on research I did about our GDP, the amount of money we spend, the losses we make, the industries that we have involved, private sector, how they will be involved. You know the private sector is going to play a big part because they want to look good, and I always say that. We got big companies in here, so conglomerates, Massey, whatever. They want to look good, put beacons in your store, right? So that a person might not be coming to your store, but they can use it as a triangulation to find out where they are. So, like, I hope I get you all the gist of my idea. I don't want to take up no more time. I want to bring it to an end, but we got to help the people out there that we don't think about because they're living a life we don't understand. They're having an experience that we can't experience. So, like, think about them and help them, right? That's basically it. I have the numbers, I have the details. The Prime Minister, I could talk to the Prime Minister too, come my mouth door shut. I know how to speak. Yeah. Say Michael West.
So, Terry, first of all, I think on behalf of everyone, we want to commend you for coming up. You say you're not into public speaking. This is the first time you're doing this, but you're excellent. And I feel you all need to give Terry another big round of applause.
I appreciate it, people. I don't do this.
But yeah, no, but you coming out of your comfort zone is a big thing as well. Yeah. So yeah, you need to motivate other Barbadians to do that as well, you know. But I really like the plan and how holistic it is. You made it extremely holistic. You talk on entrepreneurship. You talk on enfranchising people, employment, tourism, data, innovation. It was a very holistic approach. Yeah. So I really commend you for doing it, and I really like that you focused on a group that is not often focused on or forgotten in countries all over the world. True. So I really want to commend you for doing something that other persons don't often focus on. So I really commend you for that. But I'm going to pass over to Minister Humphrey. I know you have some thoughts on this, and we really like for you to share your feedback on Terry's presentation, and if any of the other MPs want to share as well. But I really commend you, Terry, for coming out of your comfort zone and sharing tonight in Golden Square.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
If Terry was out of his comfort zone and so standing, I don't want to see Terry in his comfort zone. A good night, a very good night to everybody, and a very good night to you. I must tell you that you have warmed my heart. So when we came into office, one of the first things, as you would know, one of the first things we did was to set up a commission to look into the issues pertaining to persons with disabilities. That commission held over 70 or 80 meetings. And we invited persons from wider Barbados to come and make a contribution on exactly the things you talked about. Yeah. All the things pertaining to disabilities. And there is now a comprehensive policy on improving the lives of persons with disabilities. That was the name of the commission. It was chaired by Edmund Hinkson, and the Honorable Kariana Eiffel was deputy of the commission, and she's blind. Yeah. And in fact, everyone on the commission was either a person with a disability or the parent of a child with a disability. Because we wanted policy, but we also wanted a personal experience, the kind of experience that you just got. Yeah. And I am very keen to hear to see what is in your report. I will share with you the policy, and I know you're a man that is into AI, so you'll probably interpret it in a few seconds. But I will share with you the policy. It's very, very long. Yeah. And I will share with you the legislation that was passed in Parliament as well to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. But the bigger points that you made, I think, resonate with me entirely. First of all, I like your passion. Because we don't have a lot of people, especially young men, who care about this issue. And I like your passion in relation to improving the lives of persons with disabilities. And the truth is that even though I think as a government we've done a lot of work, there's still in Barbados a number of persons with disabilities who are not seen, who are not heard, and not felt. And I use persons with disabilities because when we began the conversation, that is what they said they want to be referred to, as persons with disabilities. Because they're persons first, but with a disability. And so the commission had, as I said, we met with the private sector, the government. In Barbados, I must also commend the private sector too, because they have said to us that they're keen to hire persons with disabilities. The experience you had with that young person who was able to come back and be able to contribute and be outstanding, and how it surprised you, that is the conversation we have with the private sector. That many persons with disabilities, when they come to work, they get to work first, they leave work last, they work hardest when they're there. Yeah. They want to show that they are capable of doing the work, and we don't give them enough opportunity. The unemployment rate for persons with disabilities, the last thing we checked, was like 90%. And I mean, we've been working to reduce that. We've hired a lot of persons with disabilities in the ministry. The government now has a policy where it is going to be hiring a significant amount of persons. We contemplated the idea of having a quota, whereby every business, depending on its size, would be mandated to hire a person with a disability. But when we began that conversation with the disabled community and with the business community, we both sides had reservations about it. And so they prefer to hire persons out of their own volition and interest, as opposed to being forced by law. So it means we have to do a lot of things. One, in education, we have to make sure that the educational system is fair to persons with disabilities. At the 70 meetings that we held, the consistent complaint over and over for not only persons who were blind or visually impaired, for persons who had hearing difficulties and impairments, for persons who had physical disabilities, the education system was the main problem. So that by the time you produce, after many years of school, a person with a disability who is very unlikely to have the same opportunities for learning. You don't have the aids, you don't have the tools, the teacher doesn't have the patience. In fact, Andrele isn't here, but if Andrele were here, we do this thing every year. And let me begin by saying is that you could bet your bottom dollar that you can be in the Ministry of People Empowerment just now. But Andrele, who isn't here, when he did his story, he does this thing, we do this thing every year where we invite a person with disability to tell their story. When he told his story, the thing he complained about, there were a few things, but the thing that he spoke of that hurt him the most was that when he went to school as a young boy, because of his physical disability, the desk was inconvenient for him. It was uncomfortable for him. And he said it was affecting his learning. So when he said it to the teacher said, well, if you want a desk, you gotta bring your own desk. He said that just shattered his confidence. We had a situation with Janelle, who's blind, who's also on the commission. And she said when she had her child, the nurse and the doctor was like, what are you doing having a child? Who's gonna look after this for you? She's a girl with first-class honors and a lawyer. Outstanding, but what they saw was a disability. Our country has a lot of work to do. Yeah. And it is not going to be done by people like me necessarily only writing laws and policies, but it's persons like yourself who would come and articulate it from your heart. I respect that you spoke tonight from your heart on an issue that matters to a lot of us. So again, I'm very keen to see the work that he has done in relation to the RISM, and we've already started looking at the city and seeing how we can make the city more accessible, to have an accessible Barbados, not only for tourism, but for Barbadians, you know, and how we can make the beaches more accessible. So I look forward to having that conversation. I really want to read this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I have all that information. One thing I must say is that I went to school at Charles F. Broome Primary. When it was... right. And there is a section in Charles F. Broome, I remember growing up in the 80s. There were people with, I don't know the correct word. I didn't want to be politically correct. Special unit, right. And we interacted with them. So I believe, like, because of that, I always saw them as people. I don't see them as anything different. So I'm able to interact with any person because, like, of that environment. I know that right now we have schools for people separately, and I understand why that is, but there are some schools that you can still have this being done. Incorporate so that people could see that these people with disabilities, there's nothing wrong with them, because I don't like to see people skinning at the face or nothing. So up to last week in Eagle Hall, I saw a lady walking with a young girl that I didn't know what it was, probably Down syndrome or something along that line. But the interaction between them was so loving. It warmed my heart, right? I get old and sentimental now. I see it, right? I was like, ah. And I spoke to them, I was like, I'd like to see that. Because these are people that we got to talk to the same way that we talk to people that we want to respect, right? So, like, let me, like, care about these people for real. Don't be like, yeah, let me do something about it. I have my documentation there. I provide all the information. Anything that needs to be done, I do more research and provide anything else that needs to be done. I think I had enough time. I'm not going yet.
Thanks,
Right.
thanks,
No problem,
Terry.
no
Good
problem.
night, everyone. I'm Marcia Cattle, MP for St. Michael South Central. I heard you talk a lot about the infrastructure side, which I think is really critical. So I'll let Minister Humphrey carry on there. But I also was interested to hear you talk about your experience working on tech and AI.
Yeah.
As a former technology minister who is actually still working in tech on the private side, before, a few months ago, the ministry partnered with a faith-based institution that does a lot of work with people with disabilities. And the project had to do with enhancing the skills of people with disabilities with a view to getting them involved in tech-based work. Part of the rationale for this is that it was essentially low-hanging fruit for a lot of people who were confined to their homes at the time. So if you get some as you mentioned, people who are have high aptitude for certain kinds of things, who are bright, who are interested, who are dedicated, and you take the tech to them, you take the training to them, and then get them in income-generating work.
Yeah.
And what we found was that actually the pathway to that was quite short, because you're just getting a computer in front of them and then doing the training from there. And so we started some work at the time that we didn't quite get to finish, but that I've picked up in my private capacity, and I would like to offer, I don't want to take you away from Chris in St. Michael West, but I think that what the moderators were getting at is that, is there something that we can start now? And I know that the infrastructure stuff will go, but I am kind of offering as well, or asking as well, if there's something that we can start now on the tech side to bring some of this training and start to expand some of this work with people who are living with disabilities. We started, we were able to have 3 people who found decent work in a tech-related sector, but I think there's so much more that can be done. And when I heard you tonight, it kind of triggered that so that we can pick that up and not let it disappear. So I'm hoping that perhaps this is something that we can talk about some more.
That's no problem. In a case like this, the first thing will be generation of the applications, because you have to not only generate the application, you have to test it, ensure that it works, because people are going to depend on it. So that's something you can start in the beginning without even having any infrastructure. There's software you can utilize to generate applications. You can actually download software. Python is what we usually use to generate code. Python, and we use the AI to actually assist us with the generation. So if you want to start something right away, you have GovTech, and there are also, yes, I know what's going on. And some of my colleagues that I was working with have come together to start a technological company named Nexura. These guys are highly skilled. I mean, like, I think that I'm bright. I think so. But I know that these men are bright for sure. So in a case like this, right, generation of the application is just the first step. We already, I have a basis as to what we would need. There are estates, as I said, that have these things implemented. So the idea is there. So we already know what we need. But as I say, generating an application for Barbados itself, as Carla, you spoke about collecting data. That is a major part of generating applications for Barbados, because a lot of the stuff you'll find on the internet is catered to the wider world, US, UK, the Western world, big countries. But in order for us as Barbados to become an e-state as well, we got to start collecting data. The same thing you mentioned, that's why I was listening to what you were saying, because that's very important right now in these times. Data, that's what drives our society, and that's how we're going to make it forward. Once we have the data, we know how we can analyze it, and then we could do predictions, something in AI called logistic regression. Whereas that you have the data, you could formulate an algorithm that predicts what will happen in the future based on trends and current and future possibilities.
It would be remiss of me not to come up here and speak on behalf of Terry. I've known Terry for 6 years now, and I have always recognized the tremendous talent and potential that he had. When we met, we had just come out of COVID, and then we had the ash fall. And Terry, permit me to tell
you could go ahead.
them the story. Okay. So when I met Terry, he was unemployed at the time. Of course, COVID and ash was very hard for young people like Terry. And Terry's a very bright young man. We had numerous conversations. I was an engineer, and Terry has a lot of ideas, so we had a lot of conversations. So I had the opportunity at that time to select a few people to be on the ASH program. So I selected Terry to be on the ASH program. Can you imagine that? A man of his tremendous potential, talent, and intellect. But I'm so pleased to hear, Terry, that you took the opportunity to go and learn AI. And this really does show the importance of the NTI, the Construction Gateway Program, and these programs for our people, so that we can get our young people to learn new age skills like in AI and cybersecurity. So Terry, we're extremely proud of you.
Yeah.
And
I really appreciate
keep up the good work.
Kanisha and the other secretaries that I've been interacting with for the past few years. I mean, like, all these people are intelligent and they speak to me like a person. Like, I Terry, face a kind of discrimination that I don't even want to talk about, right? I do have the intellect to do certain things. I do apply for jobs, right? I get interviews, I get there. They interview me, they look at me, they smile, but I know I'm being patronized, I'm not a fool. But you don't make a noise out of it, right? You smile and you go ahead because other opportunities will present themselves. So, like, what Chris says is, like, I do have a lot of potential, I know that. But when you're unemployed, right, you have options. You could go and do crime or you could go and do work. You do crime, you end up in jail, right? That's what's gonna happen. You end up in jail, you can end up, your family's struggling and suffering. Like, all the foolishness that happening right now is not necessary. All these youngsters that they're killing one is not necessary, you know. All you gotta do is recognize, like, I know, like, I have the ability to be an accountant, but there ain't no work. Right now, I can go and pick up that ash, right? And I make money and I was able to pay my rent, buy food, and survive, though, right? Because, like, that way is right now, it's survival people, it ain't time to do foolishness. So, like, and, like, I'm an artist as well. I write songs and I write music and stuff. I did a song for the Student Revolving Loan Fund, right? Sorry about that. I did a song for them. I did a song for Protector, the company. I sent it to Canada. I mean, like, I let it go because I tell myself, as long as I could do these things, I get my abilities out there, people gonna recognize me. No matter how much I get used now. At some point in time, I'm gonna find a way. If everybody got that, man, that understanding that that's how life is going. You can't get everything one time, man. Everybody ain't gonna get rich, right? But something is just to survive, right? And if you want to survive, right, do the right thing. You won't be hiding from police. That don't make sense. I could get up in the morning and water my plants and walk down the gate and go to the shop and come back and smell like all my neighbors. I ain't all that wrong. Nobody is trying to kill me. Understand? And a lot of people might look at me and say, look at this Rasta man. I got tattoos and stuff, guys. I just want you to know, right? But I got sand in here and I got sand in here. Understand?
Terry, listen, I believe on behalf of everyone here and everyone watching, we really want to thank you.
Yeah, glad to be
you
here,
said
man.
that this is your first time, but something tells me it's not going to be your last. So there's just one thing about answering you, Terry. Yes, sir. So all that information that you've given us, we've got your contact information. If you could put that in a proposal to send to our Director of Citizen Engagement, Mr. Roy Morris, because I really think what you have there is not just food for thought, that's food for action. Yeah. I think now we are ready. And the Minister, with your permission, MP, we would like to get some of the ideas. I think they really have some impact that we could start to see happen.
Y'all got me out here real long, though.
Yeah, it was a good idea. That's what's happened, man. Ideas for them. But Terry, you've been amazing, so I want to thank you for coming up, all right?
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
So I'd like to welcome the next speaker. I'd like to welcome up Roshana Trim. I believe, Senator, you have a few ideas for the parish that you'd like to share with us.
Hi, good night, everyone. Thanks a lot. So just two things. The first is that a lot of my life was spent in youth work, so I did a lot of volunteerism throughout the years, and one of the challenges that we had and that we continue to have is access to affordable spaces in terms of offices for youth organizations. A lot of youth organizations don't do the kind of work that they might like to do because there is no centralized space. They also lack access to resources. When you traverse Bridgetown or even other parts of St. Michael, you might see a lot of old buildings and buildings that are no longer being used. And I think it's a great idea to repurpose some of those buildings so that community organizations and other NGOs could have a base They're able to have classrooms so they don't have to worry about paying for a classroom space, because when I have to when I have to pay for classroom space, it means I now have to consider additional overheads, even if persons are offering their labor for free. In addition to having co-working spaces for small businesses, a lot of businesses are also looking for spaces to work. And if we could find spaces for them to operate within communities or in Bridgetown, it offers them a central space to engage. It also means that youth or young people at any point in time could know, okay, so if I go on Sundays or Saturdays to this particular space, there is going to be an activity, a class happening, something happening. Additionally, it takes young people out of some environments that might be negative. So my neighborhood might not be a space that I want to be in. I might need to see new environments. I found that that was a really good thing for me growing up in my community, being able to leave that community and explore, engage with other people, speak to persons who had different experiences, whereas being in an environment might limit you. You now kind of have this access to mentors and those different things, and sometimes you need persons to speak positively into your life in ways that others in your community or in your home may not. We have to accept that all homes do not offer the same kind of encouragement, the same kind of space, and one of the gold spoons or the privileges that we often underestimate is having parents or somebody that pours into you and sees something in you. And so that's really something that I really wanted to touch on. The second thing is that there's been a lot of conversation recently about rent and the ability of locals to rent homes and the cost of that. And so I also believe that even the city or some of the other neighborhoods might be good spaces to consider zoning and being able to incentivize for persons to offer affordable rates to locals, because it definitely is a problem that a lot of persons have highlighted over the last few years.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Trim. And Roshana, if I may call you so, you know, we've worked in youth organizations. I don't want to age us, but going back. And that challenge you spoke about in terms of having sometimes a central space to work from that you can invite others into as well. I think that's a point that should be well taken, because no more than ever, I think we need to, you know, have spaces where our young people can come out and come to somewhere where there's a sense of purpose and no longer, you know, feel as though sometimes you may be on the sidelines trying to push your way in, but you're now among peers where you can share your thoughts, share your feelings, and have them immediately understand and be able to translate that then to those in power. So I really want to commend you again for coming up with that idea. Thanks, Sean. Okay, I'd like to move on to our next speaker. We have a Davison Griffith. Floor is yours, Davison.
Good night. Let me first just start by saying, Kurt, you covered everything that I was going to say within disability. But I really want to add on something that you said. Yes, there's disability policies that the government would have implemented, and there's laws as well. But the most important thing that we must start to look at is the enforcement of these policies and these laws in Barbados. And I feel like the lack of enforcement is affecting these people that have disabilities, because then it's limiting them. Something that the government should also look with enforcing now is these policies is corporate businesses like supermarkets, or you have the mall not so far from here. Like when I went to Canada, there was the automatic doors. There was a button that you can press. These sorts of things that caters for disability. And I like that the Rasta sorry to call you Rasta Terry, mention it. But to break off and to go into the second point that I have here, and it is catering around youth as well, and how we can find ways with developing our youth in our community centers and our community development totally in general. We have a lot of community centers in Barbados and in the city as well, and they're just being there stagnant, nothing doing. And I feel like Roshana would say, we need spaces where young people can come out and feel a sense of purpose. And we as, you all as MPs, you all as the government, must now find your purpose, your business to implement meaningful programs in the city, in our community centers, that young people could come out and feel a sense and a purpose that, okay, well, my MP is doing this. My MP is having a program here for me. It's having a job program for me that OSI can come down and have 2 sessions and they can get a job internship. And we have a lot of young people that go to school and don't come up with a lot of CXCs, right? And it can be because of the environment of the households. And government must make it a responsibility as well to help with those people. Now, I know there are programs like skills training, there's the Youth Advanced Corps and stuff like that. But we must face the reality is as well that some of these children are the bread carriers in the household. They have to go there and look to bring something in the household. So if government can work with those young people and, okay, you're skillful, you have no qualification, but I can put you in this space. I can try to reach out to this business and say we could go and do a 3-month or monthly internship and can be paid, to help with the load in the household. And that will help with a lot of and then that will help with the decreasing of what is the word I'm looking to use? Youth unemployment. That will help with a lot of youth unemployment rate. When we giving young people internship positions. So to put all of it in a nutshell, I feel like government, we need to work with enforcing these disability laws now and enforcing them there to businesses as well, that we can start implementing meaningful programs and utilizing our community centers more, implementing a lot more programs because the youth is the future, and we need to find ways that they can come out and they can feel a sense and a purpose of. Yeah.
Thank you, Davidson. Davidson, before you go, I really want to commend you for coming up and sharing a bright young man that you know you have a big future ahead of you. Just a question. So, working in this space, a lot of programs happen. And across the ministries, across the NGOs, they often say that persons don't really come out like before. What would you say, or how do you think we can attract more young people, or more people on a whole, to come and participate in these initiatives that are wholesome, that are progressive, and that are beneficial for them? How, one, do you get them to see the importance of coming to these things, but 2, how do you think we can better attract them?
Well, let me just say, I feel like government should make it their business to go to these people as well, and not wait for young people to just get up and come, because I might not know I might hear about the program, but I might not know nothing about the program. I have no education or no awareness of the program. What the program could do for me, it might be some program, but what it can do to me. So as the MP or the head of the program, I feel like we need to start coming to the people rather than the people coming to us, and that is where it needs to start.
Brilliant, Davidson. You're out to the hot seat. You're not like Terry tonight. But thank you, Davidson, for coming forward.
So over the course of the night, we've been seeing a general trend in terms of the conversation. So persons with disabilities, how we can work with them as well. Conversations about the environment, about the youth. And so as the speakers have been, talking, and the MPs have been talking, they've been seeing some nodding heads in the audience. So I must believe that there's some people who are understanding and feeling what we're saying. So I just want to open the floor at this point if there's anyone who, you've heard the conversation that's been going on and you have a point that you want to share reflecting off of it. I just open the floor to you. You don't have to necessarily go and write your name. I know some people are a bit, shy in terms of doing that, but you can come and you can share that so we can keep the conversation going.
That's a very good idea, and this is the last one for the year. So Michael, you can't disappoint. I don't want to start calling some names. I see a lot of bright sparks in the crowd. I'm not going to call some names, but I see Caleb come into the mic. I see my friend Kyrie, my classmate friend Yui. Kyrie, I want to hear your opinion, man. I want to hear your thoughts as well. So after Caleb, I would really appreciate it. Yes. Caleb, we welcome the president of the Barbados Youth Development Council, Caleb Braffett, to the mic.
Hello. Right, it's on. Hi, good night, Tahir. Hi, good night, Prime Minister, Member of Parliament and MP present. I couldn't sit down and be quiet, recognizing that the last 2 speakers were to speak about young people and youth development and being the president of the Barbados Youth Development Council. I want to commend both Senator Trim and Davidson for their contributions. I think they were excellent. My thoughts about the contributions is correct. Oftentimes, of course, there are projects and programs, but the people that we really want to target do not know about it. So, Davison, your point about going to them and making sure that the program that you're, or the project that you have reach the desired person is great. I want to go even further in the whole youth development conversation and recognizing that the Barbados Youth Development Council, which is the National Youth Council of Barbados, is the oldest national youth council in the region and the fourth oldest in the world. Actually, we may become the third oldest in the world because the British National Youth Council would have collapsed. And I do not intend for the Barbados Youth Development Council to see that fate. What am I trying to say? I believe that in 2025, there's the prime opportunity for the Barbados Youth Development Council to go through its other evolution. In 2000, the then president of the National Youth Council, which would have been Minister Monroe Knight, would have added the D to the Youth Council, and it would have shifted our focus on not only looking after the interests of young people, but also taking into consideration that what we would have became is the umbrella organization for youth groups existing in this country. So that we had a dual focus. Now, when we look from in 2025, we know that there are some issues that young people, in terms of young people, we know that some young people are engaging in negative activities, whether it be criminal or otherwise. And one of the ideas that the Barbados Youth Development Council would have proposed would have actually to be that we make compulsory young people to join youth organizations. Tyre, you would have made the point that, young people are not coming out to youth organizations anymore, and that is the truth. Many of my members suffer from ding-doing membership and lack of membership. And just as we have certain laws and regulations in place because we recognize that as human beings, we need a push in the right direction, is that this should be become compulsory for young people. I know that at the level of social partnership, being privileged to be a part of those meetings, that is something that was decided by the social partnership, and which I commend the government's bold step in taking that lead. But what I would like from the government of Barbados is that because we have the National Youth Council structure here, we are already the umbrella organization for youth groups. The next step is that as we seek to make the compulsory membership of young people to join these youth groups, because youth groups instill structure, they instill discipline, and they will help with some of the societal challenges that we are facing right now, is that the Barbados Youth Development Council should be given the technical and the financial resources to be able to administer this program so that it is young people helping young people. Because young people oftentimes, as I always say, have the solutions to the challenges that we face. But sometimes what happens is that we are not given that opportunity. So that should we be given that opportunity, I am I'm very sure that we'll be able to solve the challenges that are happening amongst some of the youth population that we have in this country. To go even a bit further, my recommendation would also be that we have a Youth Development Act, because even though we have the Barbados Youth Development Council, and we were established in 1969, a couple years after Barbados became an independent nation by George Payne and other members, is that is word of mouth. That is only in terms of talk. But that we can have this Youth Development Act that speaks to the role of the National Youth Council in government and in state affairs. They can speak to the functions that I would have highlighted in terms of managing that compulsory membership or that National Youth Service type of entity. That it would also speak to bringing what the government would have done in regards to the National Youth Policy and enshrining it in legislation. And it can also go a step further and looking at all the things that exist in silos that in regards to the youth economy, whether it be in terms of the youth entrepreneurship scheme or the various trust loans, that you can bridge all of them together and create that entity so that holistically youth development is felt, seen, and heard in this country. We can take the model of St. Lucia with their youth economy. I believe that a youth economy unit can be set up within the Division of Youth Affairs and to be able to ensure that young people can benefit, and it could be in terms of those having those low interest rates for housing because Roshana would also talk about rent. so that you see how all ties in and you have that holistic youth development approach, and so that young people in Barbados could be able to benefit. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Caleb. Before you go, and I know we had this conversation a while ago, and not just in youth organizations, there's the dwindling numbers, but in churches, in clubs, in NGOs, as we have mentioned. How, from your perspective, how do you think, one, that these institutions have adapted to the shifts that's happened in the Barbadian society, one, and two, how do we then equip these institutions to be able to address some of the challenges that are now faced in 2025 as compared to previous years, 2015, 2010, going back?
Yes, certainly. Evolution is just a natural progress. So from the youth organization's point of view, I've seen some of my members looking at ways at how they could be able to increase their membership, recognizing that young people that today are so tech savvy, whether it be in terms of using TikTok or using the other apps that they have to be able to increase membership. In terms of church or religious institutions, what is necessary is that you can adapt and you can evolve, but you can still stay true to your morals and grounded in principle. And oftentimes in society, they see evolution or adapting to other things as, straying away from their mandate or their purpose. But it can go hand in hand, and that is something that must become people must realize that it can work.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Caleb. I think you need to give Caleb a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Because for me personally, right, Alex, we could develop a lot of the institutions, the acts and stuff like that, but we still have a deep-rooted issue, because we can have all the programs in the world, but if people are not coming out to benefit from the programs as they should, we're going to still have the same issue on the other end. So I really like for us to have that conversation moving forward. Perhaps next year we could focus on that, so we can continue to open the floor. Anyone else who would like to come and speak is... Yeah, sure, go ahead. Okay, sir, you can come to the mic. Just state your name and where in St. Michael you're from.
Good night. My name is Laura St. Pierre.
Come to the mic, buddy.
Good night. My name is Laura St. Pierre, and I live in the city. Now, there are a few things that I have written down that I would like to speak about. Okay. Right. Now, we are saying that we are a republic, but last week was driving my grandson to swimming. I saw the Governor General car, the President car passed me. It had on a crown on it. And I thought it was a republic. Why is the President car still having a crown on it?
I believe it's the coat of arms. I stand to be corrected, but it's no longer the crown.
It was a silver crown on the license plate.
No.
That's the coat of arms. But that's not what I saw. Okay, I could be wrong about that. Okay. 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 My personal view on that is that we should have something that's saying Barbadian. I feel we should have the trident, the broken trident on the president's car. That is Barbadian. Another thing, I just hear people speaking about Barbados. That don't sound Barbadian to me. That don't sound Barbadian to me. What about Barbados? Barbados sound more Barbadian than Barbados. That sound foreign. Right or wrong? That's so right. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Okay.
You can continue, sir.
I live in the city. And I realize a lot of tourists down to Chapman Street, Green Park Lane, the Orleans, what I would like from the sanitation department, whenever there's a cruise ship in the port, that they do their cleanup on the night so that on the morning when the tourists come to the city, although the buildings might be old, but if it clean, it looks much more better. Yeah, they try, but I can tell you from Boxes Road, because I live just opposite the Boxes Road. Oh, they should, right, and they don't. And it's look bad and it's feel bad. I'm saying even if the building's old but clean, it has a different feel to it. Okay. St. Mary's Infant School. No, I don't know if everybody know about St. Mary's Infant School, but St. Mary's Infant School is one of the oldest schools, that was established in Barbados after the slaves got free and they came to the city to live. They lived in places like Hudson Alley, Castles, Bulls Alley. And when there are tours in the city, these tours stop right at St. Mary's Church. They are too ashamed to carry the people who want to know of the city in these areas. I'm proposing that, I heard on the news that we got a loan of $68 million or something, so for the city, to help develop the city. I'm saying maybe we can take some of that money and spruce up those areas so that when the tourists come asking about the city, well, we could hold up your hand and say, well, okay, these people could pass through the city because the areas look decent and it could go out in the world. Now, where the old school, St. Mary's was, it was torn down. There is a tree there that's probably over 100 years. I would like that area to be beautified, because when the coming president, when me and he went to school, that's the tree we played under. That's the tree. Yes, the coming president. Yeah, right. We went to school at St. Mary's Infant, St. Mary's Junior together. Right, we went to school at St. Mary's Infant and St. Mary's Junior together. So I would like the tree to be preserved and the area, because not only that area is over 100 and something years, because when the slaves first left the plantations and they came to the city, this is the areas where they frequented, where they lived, and so on. So these areas should be preserved. Okay. No. No. The loans, the loan that the government received for the development of the city, I was wondering if possible that we could get some loans for the people that live in the city, that they could spruce up the houses, lower interest loans, so that we can make our houses look better. Right. And don't talk about they have community centers where, as the young man was saying previously, that they'll be closed the majority of the times. What if we could use those places for the younger people? The young man was saying that the programs that the government have, the young people don't know. And I live in the city, and I just try to be a mouthpiece for the youngest fellas where I could go and speak to them. Not when they're vexed, because when they're vexed, you can't tell them nothing. So I wait till when they're cool, and then we're going to talk to them. I tell them about skills training and this and that, and the fellas like, you talking about? They don't know nothing about these things. They don't watch television. They don't watch the news online, so they ain't going to know about these things. So as a young man say, what we got to do is to got to bring the people that works in the office on the ground now and intermingle with the younger people so that they will get a chance to know what is going on. Now, when it comes to sports, another thing, sports is an expensive undertaking.
Lawrence, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Rob, Lawrence, so let you finish your point, but just in watching the weather as well, I know you may have a few more points.
All right, two more.
That's no problem.
All right, good. Okay. Now there's sports. Football, cricket, swimming. Those three sports. As a child, if you want to participate in any of these sports, you have to pay. You have to pay, and a lot of the kids in the inner city don't have those funds to pay for those sports. And my final thing is that we West Indian leaders, we trying to get a ferry to come to the islands. But you know what I'm saying? Windward Shipping Line had a roll-on ship doing work in Barbados, between Barbados, St. Vincent and St. Lucia, a roll-off, roll-on. We had that already. We let them go. And now all of a sudden, I'm taking me 2 or 3 years to do back the same thing that we had already. Another thing, and one final thing. We had fishing trawlers in that careenage, fishing trawlers that could go for 2 and 3 months. We let that industry dead, and all of a sudden we got long legs could only do a week. Shooting myself in the foot all the time. Thank you, ladies and
Lawrence,
gentlemen.
thank you so much. You're giving us a series of ideas there, Lawrence, that I really think can end the night well. But at this point, I want to thank all the speakers that have come up, planned and unplanned. You're really giving us a real strong finishing point for these ideas. I just want to there's one more speaker. So very quickly, I will let him come up, but then I also just would like to invite, obviously, the MP for the area, and then obviously give the Prime Minister an opportunity, should she decide to. Just quickly, Carrie.
Okay. Don't clap like that because this may not be all of that a bag of chips. But good night, everybody. My name is Carrie. So just something that I would have noticed, I believe that the Give Back program at UE is not utilized properly. It's full potential. In my head, when I heard about Give Back at the time, I thought that we were required to do an additional year. And the reason why I say an additional year, because then it would give each program time to, let's say I was in politics and I wanted work experience. So therefore, you would get the program to have an additional year, sign up with some government agencies, so that way I can get my work experience, but I can improve the government entities. So that would have been my 2 cents in terms of the Give Back programs not being utilized. And that's just a vague example, but it's something that I would have talked about at home and in thinking. Maybe just speaking to the UE students or speaking to the department heads and then implementing an additional year, especially for the computer science students, that way that they could showcase their skills as well as improving the government entities, instead of just having them there and having maybe 1 or 2 agencies signing up for the Give Back program. That way it helps us as a nation. It helps us as a nation, and it helps the youth students to get experience, work experience. So that is my 2 cents regarding that.
Excellent. Can you remember when we were at UE? I did a paper on that when I was on the Guild to the principal of UE. And that was a challenge because you have institutions that allowing for UE students, and there's no problem in this, going and painting schools, picking up garbage, that's fine. But I and you and all of us then were of the belief that we should get some practical experience. So if you're doing sports, you should be able to go into sporting organizations and give back your time. If you're doing marketing, you should be able to go into marketing companies or NGOs and work with these NGOs. If you're doing law, you should be able to get that practical experience as part of your Give Back program. So I support that 110%. So I don't know if the Ministry I know Minister Blackman is not here, but that's something perhaps from the Ministry of Education and UE officers. Oh, Minister Blackman is here as well. I know you support that 100%. But that's a conversation that we've had. That's a conversation we've had at UE. But I think also too, it needs to be directed from the Ministry of Education, most definitely.
Yeah, I agree to a point, but I think you have to do both. And I will explain to you why. I'll give you two examples. I think you should get experience. My daughter is at you, so I'd like to get experience. But I also feel that we are producing a Barbadian who does not understand what it means to go and serve. To serve. When Ross University first came to Barbados, those doctors in training, they approached the ministry for the opportunity not to teach medicine or to work in medicine. They wanted to know which old people's home they could clean, which beaches they could clean, and that kind of thing. When I had the opportunity to serve on a very prestigious school admissions committee, one of the things that in the US, one of the things that got the heaviest weighting was that person had actually done something to serve. The idea that it has to be a benefit to a student is not what it was meant to be. Yes, people should get their job experience, but we have to produce a Barbadian who cares about other things. Care about other people, care about the vulnerable, care about issues, want to clean the beach, want to see a Barbados that is built on supporting other people. So yes, some experience, but I think we had a deeper purpose when the Prime Minister conceptualized this idea. It was more about giving back, to give back. So for me, for my daughter, I say to her, you go and clean the beach. You go and spend some time with some old people. You understand? I think that's important. And then the other point I would make in relation to a point that was made earlier is about these institutions. Now, we would have done some work in the ministry that spoke to the things that gave us meaning, the church and youth groups and community groups and those things. Those things don't give young people meaning now. So we want to use the same institutions to deliver a message to young people that don't trust those institutions. We trusted the church. We trusted the school. Young people these days don't trust the church and don't trust the school, not in the same way. So we got to look at our institutions different and to find a way to build that trust. Or you're going to find young people not interested in the same youth groups that Caleb leads. They're not interested in the church because they don't trust them. And so we have to, a lot of our institutions, yes, it is good to hold on to your history, but there's a part of which you have to let go. The things that no longer work, we become so fixated on holding on and honoring things in the past, even when they no longer work. And there's some things you have to learn to let go and to be able to work. So I think we have to have, not here, perhaps when we start the conversation PM next Monday as well with the young people, we're going to start having real hard conversations about and tomorrow, actually, we're having a conversation tomorrow, thanks Chad and the Ministry of Education at Combermere School with young people in 5th, with young people from certain schools in St. Michael. And again, we're going to have those kind of conversations. And on the following Monday, it's open to the public for young people to come and talk, particularly from St. Michael and UE, about a lot of these issues. But I think we have to have real, hard conversations and not sugarcoat a lot of these things in the real world. You understand?
I'm gonna ask the MP for the city of Bridgestone. Wait, Kerry had another point? Kerry, come to the mic if you have a response. If you are comfortable. Call shield. No, you're gonna have to come to the mic.
I think that we like the idea of having difficult conversations because we like the idea of having difficult conversations. We like the idea of having difficult conversations because it would have served you in the past, and I understand the appreciation you want young people to have for these sort of institutions. But the sad reality is in terms like the church, like you said, no, sorry, my apologies. I mean, as it relates to, you said that you had a different idea for the Give Back program, and you would have said that, the idea behind it would have been for young people to appreciate the serving, the emphasis on serving. But I'm saying is, we in a different time, right? In order for young people to serve, and I am a person that serves. I serve at church, and I serve on different capacities in different entities. Maybe the approach would have been have more conversations with young people to see how they would prefer to serve. Because when you talk to young people about this give back thing, this give back, they wanted job experience. Because the sad reality is when you leave the University of the West Indies, you cannot get a job like that. And most jobs want job experiences. So using that as an avenue, persons would have gathered the experience. If you wanted persons to join service organization, it starts at home. So maybe, yeah, I understand that. I want them to serve, but maybe the strategy is outdated. So then maybe we need to have this in primary socializations, have the conversations at home, because I understand now that we're living in a time where a lot of younger people are raising children, and the young person and the grandparents are no longer in the 90s or the 80s and stuff like that. So then maybe have more programs for younger parents so that when you're talking about serving, they understand the importance of serving because some did not get the experience. So maybe have more programs regarding service, but not the give back. The give back should be different because there are always avenues to serve. Like there are so many clubs at the University of the West Indies.
I'm ready to talk when you're done.
Pardon?
I'm ready to talk when you're done. Because I hear you. I hear you so much, but I need to explain a few things too. When the last government chose to stop the payment of tertiary fees at UE, I don't think that they were wicked. I think that they may have been incompetent. I think that they may have had limited choices. But deep down, everybody wants the best for our people, correct? When we came to office, we said that we choose to pay for you. Mm-hmm. And we choose to incur expenditure that is another 30-something, I don't have the figures on the top of my head, but 30-odd million, Santi, in terms of university fees. Okay? When we choose to invest in you because you have to carry the future of this country, we're also ignoring you and you and you and you. You with me? Mm-hmm. And all the Operation Give Back is to say that as we are choosing you and ignoring these others, that I need you who we have chosen to lift weight and to help us carry these others. Am I making sense now? Mm-hmm. So that means, and this has nothing to do with your professional qualification, this has nothing to do with your training, nothing to do. It has simply to do with the fact that with limited resources, the government has decided to invest in the future of this country, but in so doing, we are ignoring the needs legitimately of other people. If you, and in some way we've met part of it because we've found the funds to create the Community Elder Care Program at the National Assistance Board. Now, why are we doing that? How many of us know of elderly people who live alone and nobody don't talk with them, nobody don't engage them, nobody don't interact with them, and then all of a sudden here the body got dementia. The body ain't able to help themselves. So that we said, look, a society is strongest when you have intergenerational communication. And we can't mandate it, and we don't like the fact that the society seems to have lost its way, especially because the demographic changes in how housing is. Before you would have lived in a village, everybody around the village would have known each other, and you would have naturally had to deal with people older than you and people younger than you. When you now live in a development and you ain't necessarily talking with who live next door to you, you're not getting that intergenerational communication that is critical to keep the society whole. So the best way for us to do it was to say, look, we get it. We're going to pay for you. But I can't afford to pay for other people to go and do these other jobs. And therefore, you have to help me lift the weight. I can't afford for people to go right now. Chad has a paper coming before cabinet about how do we make service in schools from first form to sixth form, whether it is in a uniformed service organization like cadets or scouts or guides or brownies or whatever, sea cadets. Fire service got cadets now, you see the tower there. Service clubs, you got, call them off for me, Kiwanis, K Club, what is it? Optimus, all of these ones in the schools. And I want Bajans to start choosing Landship first, and I've agreed to be its patron. And why? Because before all of these other clubs start in some small town in the US, Barbados Landship start where and raise who families since the middle of the 19th century. You understand? That is what keep Bajans eating, living, and stabilized. That's where even the concept of the susu and the meeting turn, the Landship more than anybody else pushed it in order to be able to allow people to live and catch up. Or team sporting groups. Because once you have to operate in a team, there's a different ethos, correct? Mm-hmm. As opposed to individual sport. We believe that socialization is as important as what you learn in the curriculum. Because if you don't have that socialization and you're not developing yourself, you're not going to be able to manage parts of your life appropriately. Now, I heard you in saying, and I take the point, I've listened very carefully, that when you leave UE, that more often than not you're told you don't have job experience. That is a fact of life in almost every area, except those areas that have internships. Medicine has internship as a structure of it, but most of the other degrees don't. And the truth is that that is why the summer is also there as far as possible for you to get job attachments to begin to get that. But the bottom line is the difficulty, and I'm not telling you yes or no, but I'm sharing the facts with you. If we were to extend your program by a year, what would that do to government's fees, and what would that do to other people who want to get access to UE? Because UE has a limited capacity, first thing. So they would have to expand their capital base in order to accommodate. If I was doing 7,000 students at 3 years, if I now have to do 7,000 students for 4 years, what does that mean in terms of my resources?
You will have limited resources.
That's the point. And what does that mean to government's bill? Because if we were paying 30 million, it ain't gonna wash me away. It's the same thing that all of us getting home to do, get a bath. When you now come to the fee, a little cold water never kill nobody. When you now come to the fees that government pays, if I extend everybody by a year, it means that my bill, naturally, I will now take a third of that bill and have to add to it. So if I'm paying 10 million, you understand, effectively per year, per cohort, instead of paying 30, I would now be paying 40 million. So I want us to start to break down things, because some things sound good, but at the end of the day, I got to balance it. Kirk has to build. We have one geriatric hospital that we are about to finish now that is costing just about 105 million, I think, or how much, I'm not the exact figure. But that we didn't borrow for, contrary to public opinion when they tell you we borrow. We financed that. We've also started to finance the first 3 villages with Kirk. But I need to do villages, senior citizens villages in every parish. Santia just made the point here to me, and it is a valid point, that And she said community, but I got to start with parish first. And then parishes like St. Michael that have high density of people, we will need more than one. But you see this facility here? Santi made the point that this is the kind of facility that we need, even if not as highfalutin and as thick as these walls, because this bridge down, that we need a covered facility in major communities where people can have reasoning sessions, where people can have concerts, where people can have all kinds of things, rather than having to believe that they got to do what they want out there and outside. And I see the lightning too. You understand? So that balancing how you spend is critical, because we don't only do, we're not one-dimensional people. We have a lot of things to serve. So Kirk is correct, and you and the guy who spoke before who said, look, we got to meet people where they are. We get that. We get that. But at the same time, I need us to understand that choices have consequences. And the consequences with respect to coming to say we are going to choose you, we've chosen the young people, because if we don't choose you, who's going to take care of the old people? Who's going to take care of the senior citizens? You're the ones now, and that's what the country is also facing, that if 1 in every 2 people over 65 in 25 years, who's going to work to support them? Who's going to work to protect the country? Who's going to work to build the country? And that is why it is a crisis. And 25 years is tomorrow. Because I ask everybody in this place here to remember what you were doing in the year 2000. And you're going to soon remember how fast 25 years are going to come and go. So let us work. I hear you. We'll speak to the university and see how best we can find a way that allows us to be able to integrate more experience in the actual structure of the course, rather than having to lengthen the course for another year. Make sense? And that way we can educate more people, while at the same time ensuring that their education is strategic and focused. All right?
Okay.
So I just wanted to come in on this point. I know Santi was speaking, and I know you had asked other people to speak. But I hope that that helps to explain it. Now, having said all of that, I don't feel that Operation Give Back is as strongly, as being as strongly managed as it should. And that is the example that we are using, or that is the mechanism, that we are using to force intergenerational communication and engagement in this country. You can't only talk to your children, or young people can't only talk to your grandparents. You have to be able to know how to engage across the board. And the truth is that the perspectives are so different, so different, that if we don't find the right platforms to force those conversations, we are going to end up with a society that is deeply split. And that's why the government is doing these things. And maybe we should have taken time to explain it better to you, and I am glad for opportunities like this so to do. But thank you for your passion, and thank you for ensuring that we raise the issue of integrating job experience in the structure of the training, rather than looking to lengthen it by another year. Okay? Thank you.
Madam Prime Minister, I just had one question on that, going back to the give back. And I think that is, in terms of the integration of it within, how I think that is what the intention is, in terms of having these students get back into the institutions. But currently, unfortunately, as Kerry outlined, that's not how it is. And as Minister Humphrey said, there needs to be that right balance. And I know from hearing from the institutions, they need the help. So there's often the talk about social workers in schools. So how do we get the social workers that are doing degrees giving back within these schools? How do we get the sports science students giving back at the sports council or within the sporting organizations, and then live from that perspective? So it's giving back, and that's where then the balance comes in, alongside the cleaning of the country, the painting and what's not. So I think I really appreciate Kerry coming up and raising it. I know you have lots of other points, Kerry, but thank you so very much. And we're going to ask, is it Minister Lane or Deputy Prime Minister? We're going to ask the Deputy Prime Minister Okay, Minister MP Corey Lane to speak to the city.
Good night. A loving and warm good night to everyone. I don't think it is prudent to welcome people in the end, because I believe you're at the end, right? So I'd like to take the opportunity as the host constituency to thank you all for coming out to Gordon Square. I want us to pause for a moment and look around at this facility and recognize something. I remember I was a talk show host at the time when the NIS building was being torn down to build here. And people believed that it was a waste of money, a waste of time, and a waste of a facility, because they thought that a facility in Bridgetown, in the heart of Bridgetown, with vagrants and homeless could not survive the test of time on this location. But when you look around, you can be proud to know that this is a government facility that has been maintained in pristine condition. I want to thank the BTI. Special shout out to Hester Rose. I don't know that, Hester. Special shout out to her and her team for maintaining this, because think about the marvel that this is. And in the rest of my short contribution, I just want to say that in this idea forum, I think it is important as a government to not only take the ideas, but also to report. And I know that the Prime Minister's heart and many of the MPs' heart, the government heart must be feeling warm, although outside is pretty cold and chilly, as you gave some of your ideas. Because when you talked about the tours in Hudson Alley, just before his passing, the late Trevor Marshall used to take people through there. They said that that's the only slave hut. It's really a cofter's hut where the indentured slaves used to actually live from. And across the road, they would iron the clothes of the masters. And that was being built into a part of a tour. So you have idea, something being worked on, and then the report. And I think that's how it comes full circle for our democracy. When I heard about the programs in the community center, I look across and I see the director of the National Sports Council, and I want to say a special thanks to him, and particularly his deputy, for getting Edmonton Community Center reopened and getting some programs there, and also Murphy's Pastor, and immediate past Chief Community Development Officer for getting Edmonton open. As an idea in the idea forum, I'd like to share the idea that I think as a government, we have a plan and we are working on scale. A lot of time you have these programs, the hairdressing program, the soap making, the wine making, all these programs, and they can only hold 20 people. And as soon as you put out the flyer, it closes because it's full. Connect that with the point that young people don't know. And we also say at the same time, young people don't go there and try to know. And two things can be true at the same time, because there's those two things. And one of the methods that we've used, Kirk and I in our ministry working together, change agents, different people going out there, influencers, to get the word out. Because you can't just put it on a status, put it on a snap, put it on and think that everybody can see. So you got to get that human connection where you could touch people, feel people, and know what people are doing and want to do. So I think that all the ideas that you are bringing, we are happy. When you talked about the urban renewal, the rebuilding of the houses, you want to talk about soaring, and also loans for people to fix up, all of those things are on the cards. And I think that as we know that it is something that when you bring the idea that you will like, I think that we can be proud to know that it is something in the pipeline and something coming to you. So I want to encourage Barbadians, as this is not the last idea forum, I believe, it is the last one on the cards for now. But I want you to continue to share your ideas with us as a government. As a government, continue to listen, to report back, and most importantly, to implement. Because we could talk and talk and talk till the cows come home, but if we don't implement, we would have wasted your time and ours. And so that is my wrap up from your ideas to our implementation. Thank you and have a good night.
All right, good night again, everybody. I know it is cold, and yeah, we're coming to a close, but I shared with Prime Minister when she came here tonight. Terry, I think you touched each and every one of us when you spoke. Where are you? You're there to the front. And I think I was trying to get her to say it, but she's encouraging me to say it, that one of the things that touched me and that I shared with her was the fact that when we initiated the program for allowing our young people to be able to learn AI and to also learn cybersecurity, I don't think any of us could ever have envisaged where it was going to take us. And I felt really good tonight to hear you speak, because this lady here that we call Prime Minister was the person who envisaged what we are now hearing from you. That we can be the best that we can be, that we can touch the different borders by the things that we do, and that by investing in education of our people, Barbadians have the potential to cross any border. And you demonstrated tonight, because sometimes we working really hard in cabinet, sometimes we don't always understand where these projects may take us. But you, in just those words that you spoke tonight, I think all of us, certainly at the level of Parliament and certainly of the government, really appreciate and can see what has become of that program. And I think what we take away from it tonight is that we now have to work out how do we make sure that people like you who have been given the opportunity to be able to see differently and to see people differently are able to have a space to be able to give back to Barbados. Prime Minister has also created something called Future Barbados, which has allowed young people like yourself who want to give back to Barbados and do things for Barbados to be able to do so in an environment where they can work with the various ministries to benefit Barbados. Again, a lot of people don't understand it. They probably didn't understand when it was created. But again, these are all things that when you plant the seed, you just can sit here now and see the seed actually germinating. And we can all be very proud of the fact that the investment in things like AI, cybersecurity, the Future Barbados team, and certainly investing in the tertiary education, making sure that young people who were denied the educational opportunities to go to the University of the West Indies were given that opportunity by us. Now, yes, the program would give back, which certainly when I was minister, we started. There was a great uptake at first. But I'll share this with you because people are saying, on the one end, it is that the students want to participate, and we want them to participate. But there was another factor which we need to touch on, which is that in many cases, while there was a good uptake from the business community, there were also some people when we got the program started that couldn't be bothered to train the young people because they felt that this was taken away from their core business. And I often hear Kurt refer to this issue of our people sometimes lack the care, whether it is care of the elderly, whether it is care to each other in terms of how we treat to each other. And I think we need to get back to those basics where we understand that we have, in a sense, lost that care component of who we are. And that is what the Give Back program was about, making sure that as businesses, we take the time to train our young people. Because too often you hear the young people coming out of school and they don't know how to perform when they get into the work environment. But it was created to make sure that our young people understood they had to give back because we were investing in them. But equally, we wanted the business community as well to take that time to care, to mentor, and to make sure that the training that was necessary for these young people entering the workforce was also a part of the Give Back program. So I know Minister Husbands, who is responsible for the tertiary education section of the ministry, I know that she's been working to revamp it because this is not a program that is a fly-by-night program. It requires not just the businesses and the students to participate, but it has to function by way of managing the process, making sure that the hours are committed, that the young people are able to attend the programs, that the businesses are filling out the forms, and that when they say they can't be bothered, that there is some way of going back to them and trying to make things a bit easier. So I just wanted to share that because I think sometimes that, we are doing a lot of big picture things as a government and sometimes it gets lost on the population. But I just wanted to share that I feel very comfortable tonight that we are seeing the fruits of our labor and the investment in our people. I'm proud of the young people who have spoken tonight as well and shared their vision. And Carla, I'm not sure where you are right now. Where are you, Carla? Is she still here? Right. The other thing that you said, which I took away from what you said, was data has to drive decision making. Because whether it is the green spaces that you spoke about or making sure that we look at how the impact of the climate is affecting the workforce. We all know outside hot. Anybody who got anybody working on a house know that outside is hot during the day. So what does it mean for us as a government? It means that we have to start to engage with whether it's the unions or the employers to make sure that maybe the hours of work are also changed, and that the resistance that we may have had in the past can't be the way that we go forward. Those are the difficult conversations that we have to have as a country. Because, for instance, in MDW, I get better workflow when people work at night. But there's an extra cost in terms of setting up lighting to make sure that we can ease the congestion on the roads when we're working on the roads, but it also means that people are a little bit more relaxed and they're more comfortable when they are working in an environment where they don't have to sweat the whole day to be able to finish a road. So there is a balance that we have to strike as well, but I think what I took from you was that data must drive decision making, whether it's with you, Terry, whether it's with creating the green spaces in town. And just to say as well that while we work on our improving the transport policies in the country and certainly being able to develop spaces like Bridgetown to make it more accessible to people, the data of which you spoke is going to drive that decision making. How many people want to ride a bicycle into town? Do we need to invest in the equipment that allows you to be able to ride into town? Do we need to create more spaces in the city center that allows for trees to be a part of the landscape? How do we make sure that passing between one alley to the next is a covered walkway, is well lit? Those are all things that can only be developed primarily when you understand the patterns of behavior, when you understand whether people are going to use this space. Okay, so some things are natural, some things as a government we have to use the intelligence from the data to be able to drive that decision making. So again, thank you all for sharing. It is the end, but I think PM will have the last words on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And let me thank everyone. This has been 11 months of conversation, 11 months of ideas, 11 months of engagement. And I really want to thank all who came out. We are going into December, and I do not expect that we will have these sessions in December. We've tried to leave December for people to do their own thing, whether it is Parish Speaks or this Ideas Forum. But we will start back up in January because we're on the road to 60. And on the road to 60 is always a time for deep reflection. And rather than us looking only at the immediate, we are going to ask people to imagine Barbados in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time, and that people will focus on the 5-year, the solutions to be done within 5 years, but equally the solutions to be done, and I should have said 25, not 5, because it's 2050. The solutions to be done by 2050. So what does the Barbados of 2030 look like? What does the Barbados of 2050 look like? Because you and I both know that if we want to be able to do something that is long-term and meaningful, if we don't start now, we can't end up where at the finish line in 2050. And if we don't start now, we can't end up at the finish line in 2030. And persons have found a way of identifying the problems, so we're still going to hear about the problems, but they equally have come with solutions for the most part. And that is the kind of habit that I would like for us. We look at the Chinese civilization, we look at the Indian civilizations, we look at the African civilizations. These things have been going on, these civilizations have been there for millennia. Because we are relatively new in terms of our settlement of this nation, because 400 years is nothing when you compare to them. It has meant that we tend to look at things in short time spans rather than looking at the long picture. And I am sure that all of us in here have grandparents who wished for us certain things, even though they knew that they would not be with us for the full journey. Not true? And therefore, how do we make sure that those who will be here in 2030 and those who will be here in 2050, and the truth is that I should really even be challenging the country to 2075 too, okay? And those who want to come up to speak to that, Roy, should be allowed to do that. But I need, for us, Bajans need to be able to have not just the short horizon, but the medium and long horizons, because a lot of these trees here, when was that tree planted? You understand? When we can go in Queen's Park and look at the big baobab tree. When was that planted? And all of us benefit from the shade of that tree without giving thought as to the fact that somebody had to plant it there in order for us to be able to benefit from it. We talked just now about the National Insurance building that used to be right here. But the National Insurance building was not just a building, it has a range of benefits. If somebody didn't come and think that we wanted to do this, let me take unemployment benefit that Tom Adams introduced. We take it for granted. You know how many countries across the world don't have unemployment benefit? The majority of countries in the world don't have no unemployment benefit. But you get laid off in Barbados, and you get access to what? Unemployment benefit. To be able to help stabilize you until you catch the next job. So I want us to envisage that as we go forward. I want to give you the assurance, as I said, that there are a number of things that have come to us. Not everyone will be practical, not every idea will be practical, but a lot are. And Cabinet is reviewing, and I hope that before the end of the year, we can give you a report card as to what are the things that have been said that we found useful. For example, we all know that we celebrated our youngest participant probably, when she made the point about the quarterly cleanups, the national cleanup days in Barbados. SSA has started with bulky waste, but I have had to say, this is not an SSA initiative. This is a whole of Barbados initiative. And if we need to be reminded as to why we should clean up around our house, look at Sunday night. Look at Sunday night. Because if we are not getting rid of the garbage, Sante will tell you if that is blocking the drains, blocking the flow of water, we have problems to people's lives and livelihoods and property. And that's what we want to be able to walk away from. So I want to thank you. I give you the assurance of the reporting. I want to say to you that this is one of the features of our government that I am most proud of. That members of parliament, ministers, come and sit down and engage with the citizens of this country in this kind of environment. Would I like to see even more people come out? Of course I will. But the reality is that we make ourselves available for conversation and for listening. And that is what is fundamental, because there are so many other countries across the world where you can't even get to say something to one of your elected members, far less have the opportunity to engage in this way. And I don't want us to take it for granted, because when things happen over and over and over, we begin to take things for granted. Do not do so. I can only tell you, as a woman who got a little gray hair now, that don't do that, because this is special. Use this opportunity to engage. And one of the reasons I wanted to come to Golden Square tonight in particular, and as time goes on, I hope we will have, I've asked Kurt and others, I want more reasoning sessions. I don't need the media there. I don't need other things. But the difficult conversations that he's talking about has to happen in reasoning sessions. And if we can have that, then I'm confident that we will find common purpose for the most part. And where we disagree, we can know what is it that we must build bridges to each other for, in order to be able to make sure that there is at least a path forward that is acceptable to persons on the absolute end of the ideas spectrum of the country. So, thank you. As you can see, and you heard from Kirk, we're going to continue conversations with different groups. And tomorrow I look forward to the conversation with the fifth and sixth formers of the country and some of the post-secondary institutions. And then I look forward equally to the conversation on Monday with persons from the St. Michael communities. We're encouraging people who normally mix together on blocks or who have things to say, or people think only of the blocks, but the women sometimes lame in salons and the men lame in barber shops, so that wherever people congregate and they feel that they want to come forward and engage with us so that we can help build common purpose in this country, because this is the only country we have, and if I may say so, it is still one of the best countries in the world and still provides one of the best qualities of life in the world. And I can say so having seen from larboard to starboard the fact that all of us can sit down here in the middle of town, in the middle of rain falling, in the middle of lightning flashing, and still have these conversations and feel a sense of comfort is an amazing achievement for a country still in this world today. So thank you, God bless you all. And I want to thank Roy and the Office of Citizen Engagement, everybody, Barry, Alicia, all of you. We take it for granted. I want to thank Tahir and Alex, who have been moderating most of the sessions. Any other moderators we've had, it's mainly been them, and Roy did one reluctantly. I don't know how a man could be a journalist and don't like to talk. He says he writes. And then I want to thank the government departments. I do not take it for granted. Barbados Water Authority, National Sports Council, especially all of the MTW, all of the agencies, Transport Board, who have come out for the most part during the year and who are here, because these persons are persons who are part and parcel of the governance of this country, and they too have come here to be able to listen, to see how we can deliver better and better and better and better each time, just by through our engagement with you. So thank you, God bless you, and happy Independence and Republic Day, and happy, 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 happy Christmas. But I hope I get to see most of you, so I have the opportunity to repeat that many times, especially if we are going to find our ways singing carols and being festive through December. Thank you, and God bless.
I've seen a lot of places around the world and far apart, but deep inside there's only one that's closest to my heart. Wherever I may lay my head, no matter where I roam, Barbados will always be home. I love the open spaces, what a feeling to be free. Sea of smiling faces, oh, they mean the world to me. A place where friends are family, a place to stand alone. Barbados will always be home. Barbados, yeah. Barbados, Barbados will always be home.
In the headlines, Jamaica